Hello, my loves, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, my name is Mariya. This channel is about spirituality. Please subscribe below so we can be YouTube friends. This video is about Life Path 2 and specifically the shadows and challenges associated with it. I have made a video a while ago about the overall energies of Life Path 2. We're going to link it down below in the description section. So you can check that one out first. This one is going to be specifically devoted to the shadow. Let me know in the comments what resonates from all of the different energies that I'm going to be naming. Please know that everything that I'm telling you is a very general read. Of course, your life path number is not the only number that matters in your numerological chart. It's just the beginning of the story, in the same way that the sun sign in astrology can tell your entire story. So take everything with a grain of salt, and hopefully diving into the shadow of Life Path 2 is going to be fun and interesting to you, because I don't see a lot of people doing that. As a Life Path 2, you're here to figure out relationships. As a Life Path 2, you also have come to walk one of the feminine paths. This is a path of a peacekeeper, if you will. This is a path of the harmonizer, somebody that is extremely attuned to the energies of other people. One of the shadows of the Life Path 2 is overly giving, being an overly giving person, putting yourself last on the list. It's like being the mother archetype, and you're trying to mother everything and everyone around you. You may be tempted to mother your partner, like your husband. Sometimes you're mothering your parents. Like sometimes you're mothering strangers. Sometimes you're mothering your coworkers. There's a little bit of the mother-hen energy going on, which is very much a shadow, because you're meant to be a mother, if you're a mother, to your kids only, and maybe to yourself. But that's it, right? Like it's not necessarily an archetype that is supposed to bleed into every area of your life. When you are becoming a parent of all of the people around you, you in fact are denying them the ability to decide for themselves. Right? Like when you're trying to take care of everybody else, you forget about yourself. And that's very much a challenge with Life Path 2. They're putting themselves last. They would never prioritize self-care. They're the ones that can get really depleted and really, low energy because they don't have a stop button. Like they just keep giving, giving, giving. And by the way, there is a resistance with receptivity. As much as like a female energy is a receptive energy, they have a hard time taking. Because they feel like when they're taking something that's given to them, they're taking it away from someone. And that does not really bode well for the egalitarian philosophy that Life Path 2 has going on. Life Path 2 is probably the most likely to be in a codependent relationship with somebody who is potentially narcissistic or abusive, because they have infinite amounts of patience for all kinds of weirdness, to be honest. And it's like, again, they don't really know where to draw the line and the limit. They can go so far. And by the way, another issue and another shadow of Life Path 2 is the lack of boundaries. Like they may allow others to walk all over them. It's very hard for them to establish boundaries because they perceive that as aggression. And they don't really do very well with aggression or conflict. So despite the fact that Life Path 2 is very relationship oriented, they can be quite conflict avoidant. They really have this innate desire to please everybody. So there are a lot of people with this people pleaser archetype in the Life Path 2. The good girl, the good boy archetype. Very often it starts very early in childhood when you're trying to please one of your parents, if not both of them. You're trying to be a good girl, get good grades, hit every, little expectation. Perfectionism, very high on the list of things that Life Paths 2 usually has to deal with. For some reason, a lot of perfectionists and just like, again, having to get everything right and very low tolerance of personal mistakes and personal shortcomings. So it's almost like you have an unlimited amount of patience for the world, but you don't have that same unlimited amount of patience for yourself as a Life Path 2. Other shadows for the Life Path 2, they can be quite like melancholical. So they can, and they're very prone to depression of pretty much any other type because they're very water. And as a water type, they get into the depth of emotion, positive, negative, and everything in between. They tend to dwell on those emotions, right? They can be in grief for years if somebody passes away. Like they just feel things so deeply for every, and like sometimes disproportionately so. And that's why it's very easy for them to get into states of low energy, such as depression. It's hard for them to stand up for themselves. It's very hard for them to claim what's theirs. It's hard for them to go after the things that they want because, again, they tend to prioritize all of the other people. You would find probably the most amount of self-sacrifice with Life Path 2. They're totally happy to sacrifice themselves and to martyr themselves, whether that's for another person or their family. Not so much a cause, but if it's like some kind of charitable cause or like helping animals or some like heartfelt cause, you would find a lot of Life Path 2 there. Worry, there are warriors, like not warriors, but warriors. They worry a lot is what I'm saying. Life Path 2 worries a lot. And they don't have a means of like coping with that or regulating that. So it's like when that fire rises up, it's such a foreign energy that they don't know how to cope. They can be very overbearing as parents because they're overly protective, and they can mean well, but some of that perfectionism can be passed on to their kids. So while they were like the good girl or the good boy to their parents, they sometimes can raise children that are their exact image. So that's another thing to be aware of. What else? They are the most likely to have deep wounding with one of their parents, like deep heart wounding, because they're such sensitive babies. They're such sensitive humans. They're such sensitive beings that like a little, like even a little goes a long way with trauma with them. So they have, like literally an arsenal of traumatic experiences from their childhood, and they nurse them. And it's actually very hard for Life Path 2 to let go. They tend to really nurse their wounds. They tend to be quite nostalgic. So a lot of them live in the past. So it's like one of those, call it archetypes or energy types, like always looks back, like, oh, how it happened or how things were. They are very romantic though, so that's very cute. But because of that, it can be very hard for them to get over an ex. Or very, if God forbid they had an unrequited love, for years, they may just nurse that feeling or that sense. Also, another thing, I don't know that it's a shadow, it's more of a trend or a pattern. If they have the love of their life and they get either separated from them or the love of their life dies, they're extremely loyal and they may not remarry. So there are a lot of widows or widowers that are Life Path 2. Kind of like the swans, they get mated for life. Kind of cute and adorable, but at the same time heart-wrenching. They can be very sensitive, and it's very easy to scar them. I've mentioned that already, but like in relationships, regular relationships, not just like parent-child, it's very like as a coworker, it's very easy to wound them because everything just goes 60 layers in right away. Even if it's like a small paper cut, it's going to stab them right into that heart. There are some communication that doesn't come easily to Life Path 2, and that is affirmative communication, when you have to affirm your boundaries, where you have to share deeply, like how deep your wounding goes. I would say Life Path 2 are better listeners than they are speakers. So it's almost like there's very little of them in the relationships, and there is a lot of everybody else. And so they are the ones that are most prone to being lost in life. Not understanding what their North Star is, not understanding what their guidance is, not understanding what it is that they want, but merely following what their mother wanted for them, what their father wanted for them, or what their, teacher expected of them or whatnot, right? So they're very influenceable. And they have really good memory, so they hold on to influence for a very, very, very long time. Other shadow aspects of Life Path 2 that you need to be aware of. It's hard for them sometimes to claim their sovereignty. So they have a really big pushback towards like sovereign archetypes like the queen or the king, becoming that, embodying that, because they feel that somehow by them claiming their territory, or building something of value that may somehow take away from other people or get onto somebody else's territory. And so in general, they're like almost like walk in life, like tiptoeing around everyone and everything else a little bit, trying to cause the least amount of damage, which, is very draining. So they're very often drained, and they're probably the most likely of any other life path to be stuck at a job that they actually don't love. Because you have that self-sacrificial thing and lack of boundary thing, and also being led by other people. So like they're the most likely of any kid to go and become a doctor just because their parent wanted them to become a doctor, and then actually stick with that job until they retire just because. Like to keep meeting that expectation. So like they are really good at staying trapped in like very weird situations. So if you're a life path 2, know that about yourself, and know that there's a little bit of that victim running in you. There's a little bit of that victim scenario where you're either want somebody to save you, or you always feel like you are the victim to the circumstance. So there's a little bit of that condensed energy, like attracting trouble or like attracting an abuser, very prevalent with life path 2. All right, my darlings, let me know in the comments what resonated. I'm specifically curious if any of the shadows that I mentioned you resonate with as a life path 2, or you feel like I just spoke to your soul and I described you to the T. Really, really curious to get your thoughts and get your input. Sending you a big virtual hug, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, loves.